These three young roisterers, of whom I tell, long before Prime had rung from any bell, were seated in a tavern at their drinking, and as they sat they heard a bell go clinking. Before a corpse being carried to his grave, one of these roisterers, when he heard it, gave an order to his boy, "Go out and try to learn whose corpse is being carried by. Get me his name, and get it right. Take heed." "Sir," said the boy, "there isn't any need. I learned before you came here by 2 hours. He was, it happens, an old friend of yours. And all at once, there on his bench upright, as he was sitting drunk, he was killed last night. A sly thief, death men call him, who deprives all people in this country of their lives, came with his spear, and smiting in his heart in two, went on his business with no more ado. 1,000 have been slaughtered by his hand during this plague, and, sir, before you stand within his presence, it should be necessary, it seems to me, to know your adversary. Be ever more prepared to meet this foe. My mother taught me thus, that's all I know. Now by St. Mary, said the innkeeper, the child speaks truth. Man, woman, laborer, servant, and child of the thief has slain this year. In a big village a mile or more from here. I think it's his place of habitation. It would be wise to make some preparation before he brought a man into disgrace. This roisterer said, so that's the case. Is it so dangerous with this thief to meet? I'll look for him by every path and street. I vow it. Hear me. Fellows of mine, we are all one, we three. Let each of us hold up his hand to the other, and each of us become his fellow's brother. We'll slay this death, who slaughters and betrays. He shall be slain, whose hand so many slays. Yes, before tonight, the three together set about to plight their oaths to live and die each for the other. Just as though each had been born brother, and in their drunken frenzy up they get, and toward the village off at once they set, which the innkeeper had spoken of before, and many were the grisly oaths they swore. They rent Christ's precious body limb from limb. Death shall be dead if they lay hands on him. When they had hardly gone the first half-mile, just as they were about to cross a stile, an old man, poor and humble, met them there. The old man greeted with them with a meek air, and said, God bless you, lords, and be your guide. What is this? The proudest of the three replied. Old beggar, I hope you meet with evil grace. Why are you all wrapped up, except your face? What are you doing alive so many a year? The old man at these words began to peer into his gambler's face. Because I can, though I should walk to India, find no man. He said, in any village or any town, who for my age is willing to lay down his youth? So I must keep my old age still as long time as it may be God's will. Nor will death take my life from me, alas! Thus, like a restless prisoner I pass, and on the ground, which is my mother's gate, I walk, and with my staff both early and late. I knock and say, Dear mother, let me in. See how I vanish, flesh and blood and skin. Alas, when shall my bones be laid to rest? I would exchange with you my clothing chest, mother, that in my chamber long has been, for an old haircloth rag to wrap me in. And yet she still refuses me that grace. All white, therefore, and withered is my face. But, sirs, you do yourself no courtesy, to speak to an old man so churlishly, unless he had wronged you either in word or deed, as you yourselves in holy writ may read. Before an aged man whose head is hoar, men ought to rise. I counsel you, therefore, no harm nor wrong here to an old man do, no more than you would have men do to you. In your old age, if you so long abide, and God be with you, whether you walk or ride. I must go yonder where I have to go. No, you old beggar, by St. John, not so, said another of these gamblers. As for me, by God, you won't get off so easily. You spoke just now of that false traitor, Death, who in this land robs all our friends of breath. Tell where he is, since you must be his spy, or you will suffer for it, so say I. You're leagued with him, false thief, in joint assent, to slay us young folk. That's clear to my mind. If you are so impatient, sirs, to find death, he replied, turn up this crooked way, for in that grove I left him, truth to say, beneath a tree, and there he will abide. No boast of yours will make him run and hide. You see that oak tree? Just there you will find this death, and God, who bought again mankind, save and amend you. So said this old man, and promptly each of these 3 gamblers ran until he reached the tree, and there they found florins of fine gold, minted bright and round, nearly 8 bushels of them, as they thought, and after death no longer than they sought. Each of them was so ravished at the sought. Each of them was so ravished at the sight, so fair the florins glittered and so bright, that down they sat beside the precious hoard. The worst of them, he uttered the first word. Brothers, he told them, listen to what I say. My head is sharp, for all I joke and play. Fortune has given us this pile of treasure to set up in lives of ease and pleasure. Lightly it comes, lightly we'll make it go. Who was to know we'd ever tumble on such luck today? If we could only carry this gold away, home to my house, or either one of yours, for well you know that all of this gold is ours. We'd touch the summit of felicity, but still, by daylight that can hardly be, people would call us thieves, too bold for stealth, and they would have hanged us for our own wealth. It must be done by night, that's our best plan, as prudently and slyly as we can. Hence my proposal is that we should all draw lots, and let's see where the lot will fall. The one of us who draws the shortest stick shall run back to the town and make it quick, and bring us bread and wine here on the sly, and 2 of us will keep a watchful eye over this gold. And if he doesn't stay too long in town, we'll carry the gold away by night, wherever we all agree it's best. One of them held the cut out in his fist, and had them draw to see where it would fall. And the cut fell on the youngest of them all, and once he set off on his way to town, but the same moment after he had gone, the one who urged this plan said to the other, You know that by sworn oath you are my brother. I'll tell you something you can profit by. Our friend has gone, that's clear to any eye. And here is gold, abundant as it can be, that we propose to share alike, we 3. But if I worked it out, as I could do, so that it could be shared between us 2, wouldn't that be a favor? A friendly one? The other answered, How can it be done? I don't quite see. He knows we have the gold. What shall we do, or what shall he be told? Shall it be secret, safe inside your head? Then in short order the first scoundrel said, I'll tell you how we can bring this end about. Granted, the other told him, Never doubt I won't betray you, that you can believe. Now, said the first, we're 2, as you perceive, and 2 of us must have more strength than 1. When he sits down, get up as if in fun, and wrestle with him. While you play this game, I'll run him through the ribs. You do the same, using your dagger there. Then we'll be free to split up the gold just between you and me, and all that we desire we can fulfill. We can both roll the dice whenever we will. Thus in agreement these 2 scoundrels fell to slay the third, as you have heard me tell. Within his heart kept rolling up and down the beauty of these florins new and bright. He thought, were there some way I might have all this treasure to myself alone? There isn't a man who dwelleth beneath God's throne could live a life as merry as mine should be. And so at the last fiend, our enemy put his head so that he could gain his ends if he brought up poison to kill off his friends. Finding his life in such a sinful state, the devil was allowed to seal his fate, for it was altogether his intent to kill his friends, and never to repent. So off he set, no longer would he tarry, into the town to an apothecary, and begged for poison. He wanted it because he meant to kill his rats. Besides, there was a polecat living in his hedge, he said, who killed the capons. And when he went to bed, he wanted to take vengeance, if he might, on vermin that devoured him by night. The apothecary answered, You shall have a drug that, as I hope the Lord will save my soul, no living thing in all creation, eating or drinking of this preparation, a dose no bigger than a grain of wheat, but promptly with his death stroke shall he meet. Die, that he will, and in briefer while, then you can walk the distance of a mile. The poison so strong and virulent. Taking the poison off the scoundrel went, holding it in a box, and next he ran to a near street and borrowed from a man 3 generous flagons. He emptied out his drug into 2 of them, and kept the other jug for his own drink. He let no poison lurk in that. And so all night he met to work carrying off the gold. Such was his plan, and when he'd filled them, the accursed man retraced his path, still following his design, back to his friends, with his 3 jugs of wine. But why dilate upon it any more? For just as they had planned his death before, just so they killed him, and with no delay. When it was finished, one spoke up to say, "Now let's sit down and drink, and we can bury this body later on. First we'll be merry." And as he said the words, he took a jug that, as it happened, held the poisonous drug, and drank, and gave his friend a drink as well, and promptly they both died. But truth to tell, in all that Avicenna ever wrote, he never described in chapter, rule, or note more marvelous signs of poisoning, I suppose, than these 2 rogues presented at the close. Thus they both perished for their homicide, and thus the traitorous poisoner also died.